often hear statements that seem to be a little confusing, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Direct questions are rather simple to create. Indirect questions are a little more complicated, but with a little practice, don't worry, be happy. Direct and indirect questions are used when we don't know the answer and need information, right? That's simple stuff. Indirect questions are more polite for sure. We don't always need to say please and thank you. We can ask in a very polite way about something with using very good English and without starting a sentence, let's say, with a question word. It's common to start an indirect question with can or do. Remember that can is often used with more urgency, while could is more polite. One example I like using there is, hey, I have to get on the bus in 30 minutes. It takes us 20 minutes to get to the bus stop. Can you take me there now? Can you give me a ride to the bus stop now? Remember the last time I was on your bicycle and you gave me a ride to the bus station? Or, hey, tomorrow I have to be at the bus station at 3 o'clock. Could you take me, please? So, good in this case, these are both modal verbs, right? Can and could. Could is much more polite. Now, I can do that now. Hey, I have to be at the bus station in 30 minutes. Could you give me a ride? I could do that. Nothing wrong with that, but it has less urgency and it is definitely more polite. We often use if in our sentence as well when we use indirect statements. Ask your teacher to help explain the rules about this subject further. This is a very simple review of how this grammar works. Here are some direct and indirect question examples. Some of you know that I like to focus on questions because questions are the most difficult part of English to learn when we compare positive and negative. At the earliest stages of English, we use positive statements. My name is Bill. When we start asking questions, what is your name? That's a little more challenging. The negative as well. So positive is the easiest, negative is the second, and questions would be the third most challenging in the English language. Might be one reason to study those question words and maybe some of this grammar. This particular grammar here is all about a pre-intermediate, possibly a B1 level, and intermediate and above. Hey, where is the bus station? Very direct, right? You walk up to somebody, you've got to get to the bus station, you're not sure, you're in another city, and you say, hey, where is the bus station? Very direct. Now look at this one. Excuse me, do you know where the bus station is? So, do you know? I'm actually asking for your knowledge, but this is truly an indirect question. Instead of just walking up and say, hey, where's the bus station? I might say, hey, do you know where the bus station is? You see how much more polite that sounds. Do you know if there is a bus station near here? Now this might be because I don't know where the bus station is. I have no idea whatsoever. The last question was all about possibly, I know that there is a bus station in this area somewhere, and could you help me with that maybe? So this is an indirect question with do and if. Hey, do you know if there's a bus station near here? Can you tell me where the bus station is? In this case, can is a little more direct. This is an indirect question with can, and probably I might have an idea that there is a bus station in this area. Can you tell me if there is a bus station near here? Because I don't know, you see. So can you tell me if? Another great way to ask an indirect question with can and do. Could you tell me where the bus station is? This is an indirect question, and it is definitely more polite. Remember, we talked about the words can and could. Could is more polite and less direct. Could you tell me if there is a bus station near here? This is could with if. So Could you tell me if there is one? Because I don't know. This is not my city. Excuse me, could you tell me where? Now here I used excuse me, right? This is very polite, a very nice way of asking someone. And that might be the best way to ask somebody instead of being very direct. Excuse me, could you tell me if there is a bus station near here? Could you tell me if there is a food store near here? And this is very polite with could and if. Question words like what, when, where, who, why, and how are used to ask questions at the earliest stages of study. These are all about asking questions when we first learn English. As you study English at the higher levels, you'll see how common indirect questions really are. And this might be a little bit about bridging grammar, grammar bridge, etc. Hey, listen to native English speakers closely. Using indirect speech is definitely considered more polite. However, this is not always true. In everyday spoken English, intonation is very important. You'll notice when I'm using my English, I often use intonation. I might bring my intonation up or keep it neutral, yes. If I bring it down, often that has a negative connotation, and often if I leave it at a level, that also can imply something that's, let's say, not positive, not negative. We can infer feelings and directness, attitude, urgency, and more with intonation, right? If I walked up to you and I said, could you tell me where the bus station is? You see how simple that sounds? It doesn't sound very polite. Could you tell me where the bus station is? I want to thank you for joining me today. Have fun with English.